JB here, June 13th, 2024, 52 minutes to the close. Talk really quick about the market, some of the names I'm trading, some of the names I'm looking at. Go from there, but take a look at the S&P. It looks like we're going to close in the green for the fourth session in a row. Uh, Working off the lows all the way down under 540 on the SPY. Now we're up here at 543. So good chop outside of there's no big catalyst to speak of uh, that I think is really going to rattle markets. So probably some chop here, consolidation, and then that 545 handle is probably going to be a big spot. If we can break through that, more blue skies, and then go from there. Um, yeah, earnings after the close, we have Adobe, Restoration Hardware. I'm not even sure anything can really shake markets too much. Maybe some geopolitical stuff where we have the G7. So even that is kind of it makes for good headlines, but nothing much other than that. So individual names. First, I'll go into Universal Display. So I mentioned on the watch list, and the stock has been on a tear. I think it's up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's up 8 sessions in a row. Some big candles the last past 2 days. So I had already locked in some 210s yesterday for some nice profits. I said I was going to lock the rest of my 210s in. It gets up near 205. I locked those in. Still hold some 220s. May look for some July strikes. It's above the upper Bollinger Band. It's been above it for the last 1, 2, 4 sessions. Not saying it can't snap back, but gives me a little pause. So maybe tomorrow, if it has continued strength, I'll look for more strikes into July. But nice name for profits yesterday and today, and still hold those 220. So hopefully it heads up near 220. It's not going to take much. I talked about it this morning. All-time high is 255. I think the backdrop of this possible refresh in phones, right? These folks who don't have products that can use AI enabled phones, whatever that narrative is, I think it just bodes well for some of these names, or at least for the short term. So I'll continue to look for opportunities to play Universal Display on that the AI hype, I guess I would call it. Arista Networks, similar situation. I think some of it maybe, I guess Morgan Stanley came out and they adjusted their price target down to 300. They they updated the price target from 300 to 325, but the stock's at 328 and change right now. So I don't know if that's all of it. Is some of it Broadcom earnings? I don't know. I mentioned it yesterday when I was I think it was yesterday, I was on Rant or maybe in the chat room. Melnox used to be one of my favorite stocks. So one of my top five stocks back maybe is 2014 or so, and NVIDIA bought them out, right? So I'm not saying someone's going to buy out Arista Networks, but Arista is more similar to Cisco, but just a monster move here. And, I put on to watch this morning. I thought 335 plus, got some strikes at the open. I was chasing. Well, I wouldn't say chasing, but I was looking for lower strikes, couldn't get filled. Then 335s finally filled a little higher than I wanted. And then 2 seconds later, those were $1. Then $1.20, locks them in to cover costs with a little profit. I'll hold those into tomorrow. Here it is, almost near the highs of the session. I think it might have a gap and go tomorrow. So not gonna not gonna close them out and watch, have some FOMO tomorrow. So I'll hold the rest of those riding free on Arista Networks. Align. So I had, I talked about it yesterday as well, and I still have some 290s expiring next week, but there's this backdrop for Align of their buyback, and they have a accelerated stock buyback program, expires at the start of July. Company's well positioned, fundamentally sound, no debt, tons of cash, returning somewhat to growth, and the stock has sold off since its earnings back in April for no reason. It was 320. Here it is. No, excuse me. Did it hit three? I thought it was, maybe I'm looking at the wrong chart. 330. Oh well, it went 330 all the way down to 240. It's bounced a little bit. I think it heads over 280 probably tomorrow. So call me crazy. It seems like a slow, methodical melt up today. It did it yesterday, despite what was going on with the Fed. So really like this name. I'm not going to add any more strikes just yet, but unfortunately, the premiums in the 280s are not going up like I would think, but like I would hope. But stock is not really it's not moving up quickly. So hopefully a gap and go tomorrow, similar to what I think will happen with Arista Networks, and make some money on those calls. Turns. What else to say here about turns? Finally over $8. So at pretty much at 130, it was 758, and then At 2:30, it was 841. So almost a dollar move on a stock that trades under $10 in less than an hour. You know, the unfortunate thing with Turn, it could sell off back under $8 before the end of the day. I hope that's not the case. I've talked about this before. I think there's going to be eventually some FOMO in some of these smaller pocket acquisition names in the GLP-1 space. Love turns. Um, Sorry about that, folks. So, at some point, I was looking to lock the rest of my June strikes in. I might do that before the close or tomorrow, lock some more July strikes in, and I still have the higher strikes on July. If it keeps going, I might look for further out strikes, but I don't want to I don't want to have too much risk on yet. But Turn has been a nice profit maker over the last couple of weeks. Adobe reports after the close today. The implied move was 7% or so. Now it's up near 8%. Despite the stock dropping, well, it's pretty much flat right now. The premiums on both sides have exploded. So my 530 strikes, which I was hoping to be able to lock some in to cover costs. At first I thought I wouldn't get that chance, and then the premiums they just keep going up. So I locked some of my 530s in to cover costs, and they're up 217 by, well, 218 by 240. So solidly over 100% on no move to speak of. So you do many times, you do this into earnings. Netflix has happened, Google sometimes, Amazon. You get calls or puts, and you can get out of the money strikes, and those strikes will go up regardless of what the stock does. And then you can lock some in to cover the costs and then ride the rest into earnings. So, uh, Adobe can lay an egg today after the close. Their earnings can come in, they can miss estimates, lower guidance, or what have you, and the stock could cave, but I'm riding free. So I think, and I said it already, if they post a decent report, I think they go up to 515, 520. A decent report, raised guidance, rosy guidance, and I think it's 530 plus. So I think I'm going to hold the rest of my strikes just into earnings as a high risk, high reward scenario where, wake up tomorrow and those calls could be bidless. Wake up tomorrow, they could be up 10, 15, 20 bags. So that's kind of thought process there on Adobe. Thankfully, got the opportunity to lock those in to cover costs. Some other names, you look at Dell today. Finally, almost like a tease. I want to add more strikes, but I'll just hold what I have. At some point, I think I'm not saying it's going to do it overnight, but it's going to be back to 140, then 150, 160, so on and so forth. You see Super Micro today up 11%. Surprising that Dell's only up a little less than 3%, despite the move in Supermicro. But if you take a look at the chart on SCM Supermicro, it's not a name I've traded, but tight setup, right? It's consolidated since the start of June. It's just been chop, 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 and now it's taking off. So hopefully, a similar situation happens with Dell, and that starts heading to the upside. Trying to think VKTX just sitting here, it's down 1%. Gosh, at some point this weekend, maybe there's some M&A, and that'll spark the entire sector. Still looking for some calls or to re-enter GPCR. Um, all the way down to 47. I think it was 47.50. Down this morning it was a lower 50s all the way up to 53.45. Been very volatile. And last but not least, AI. So got those C3 AI calls yesterday. The stock all the way down to 30.51. What did it hit at? I think 11:30 was 31, down to 35. It's just lots of choppiness. So I still think that heads to $38. Still in an uptrend. Let's see if I can post this in the chat room. But still like C3. Oh, yeah, it still looks pretty good here. I think that's about it. I'm trying to think of some of the other names. Restoration Hardware after the close, one of the names I used to like back when it was $30. Gosh, I remember I could tell you stories about Restoration Hardware. It was huge. There was like a 40% short interest. Everybody thought the CEO was nuts. He actually raised debt just to buy back stock to spite the shorts. And the rest is history, and the stock's been up thousands of percent ever since. Uh, Not a name I've traded in quite some time, but could be interesting. RH and W. W could be a name to play off that, but it's down 8% today. Why is W down 8% today? What did I miss on that one? Who knows? That's about it, folks. We got about 42 minutes to the close. Let's have a great day. I'll be back on audio tomorrow. Rock and roll.